to name Clocky, Malin, Paul, Mariam, Pipkin, Julia, Blue, Kubo, Jag. Thank you for being here. We are going to start today. It's our 35th ABC Subcommittee meeting. Thank you for joining us in time. Today's scope, it's regarding stability. One of my least favorites is since it's one of the most technical ones. So we encourage to give us also your perspective and the different topics that we are going to discuss today. Thank you as always, Marianne. Just a reminder, you can find all the information on Notion. Okay, we have shared all the links of the topics that we are going to discuss regarding the stability scope in the forum, so that way everyone can be more accurate with what the topics that are going to be discussed. Well, something that we have seen is that every time that if there is in the forum anything related to this particular scope, there isn't much engagement, and this might be one of the main reasons, also because these are technical stuff, and sometimes it's not so easy to everyone for it's not easy for everyone to understand. So we are today kind of like gathering the most relevant topics for this scope and trying to give a like an easier explanation. Shout out to Jatma that it's here for helping us also with this topic, these slides, or it's not here yet, but they will be. Um, and so let's get into it. Again, the topics has been already shared. Of course, this is regarding all of these topics are regarding the stability scope, just to give like a very general background or context of this particular scope is the one that covers everything related to collaterals, all the numbers, all and anything that is related to the base rate, to the rates of the volts, to the DSR. It mentions about the allocator volts and the rules that allocator DAOs must follow, just to give like a brief context of this particular scope. So let's get into it. And that's why during all this meeting, we're going to be discussing some of these um, topics, such as also smart bar engine that you're going to to see later. Let's start with the first one, and this is regarding a post from some weeks ago that BL Labs posted. And well, basically, there are regarding some changes to how actions work and the system. By the way, if you want to share also your insights or perspective into one of each of the topics that or questions that you may have, you can also put it in the chat. Probably there are going to be also ecosystem actors that understand way better and can give us a more details or more the details explanation on how things work. So regarding this, they have noticed that the amount of debt backed by crypto has increased. So they basically want to adjust settings to allow for more assets to be sold off quickly. Let's say in the of a problem such as liquidation. So particularly for certain types of cryptos. So what they're proposing is to increase the limit for certain assets and decrease it for others based on how much debt is currently held in those assets. So they also want to increase the overall limit for how much can be sold of at once. This in order to keep up the increasing amount of debt in the system. So in the post, there is kind of like a brief explanation about all of these and the role of these with Endgame. So what Remo explains with this is that they want to move crypto investments to lending platforms that are going to be run by allocator DAOs. They don't um they don't plan to sell off investments in the in maker core vaults unless there's like a significant risk. So what they want to do instead is to encourage users to move their investments voluntarily. And since some users may never do so, they might stop allowing new investments at some point. But of course, they're like talking about it. This is going to be a decision made by governance. And that's why um, they mentioned that investing in a new mechanism for maker um, doesn't seem wise, and that they are changing the liquidation process. Um, and actually, what I say is that changing the liquidation process can be complex and time consuming for the ecosystem. And this is something that we have also discussed in the previous stability scopes when we want to actually focus on certain issues. And that's why we're also bringing all these topics because, for example, sometimes what happens is that, okay, we find that certain specific topic might become an issue for maker, for the platform, from in-game in general. But then we find out that not really, and we shouldn't be focusing, or in general, like ecosystem actors shouldn't be focusing on those issues because of time consuming, because it's not, let's say, it's not worth it. And there are some other main issues that we should do keep an eye on. So um, again, this is the moment to kind of like discuss which are those specific main issues that we should be looking for better solutions from what we have now in the in the end game. So this is regarding all these auction parameters changes. Okay, and then we're gonna go with this one. If it's way too small, probably I'm going to share as well the where you can find this. But this is basically to give like a brief context and to yes. So right there. Okay, so when it comes to this the Spark Collateral onboarding framework, well, this proposal it's about to decide which crypto should be allowed for use in Spark. So they mentioned some guidelines and observations from past experience. What they mentioned in the past is that they want to create a system that selects cryptos, but that this is going to be based on a specific criteria, and this in order to make sure that they're suitable for Spark. So they don't want to waste time on cryptos that aren't likely to be used. So their main plan is involves these two main steps that it's if you cannot read it, I'm gonna read it. Quantitative screening and internal analysis. So basically in the quantitative screening, they will only consider cryptos that meet certain requirements. Let's say having a high market value, let's say being in demand for borrowing on other platforms. And then you have the internal analysis. So in here, what they mention is that they will also look at factors like feasibility, like stability of the cryptos. They will assess things like market dynamics, liquidity, and reliability. So based on this analysis, they will decide which cryptos are worth including Spark. Um, However, they also mentioned that after looking at potential cryptos using their specific criteria, what they mentioned is that they found no one met the requirements for onboarding at this time. So I don't know if anyone has an insight into this particular um, observation that they made, and the fact that so far at this point they hadn't found a specific crypto for this. Um, then there's this part, which is the I'm going to continue with this because this is the same with the same post. And as you can see, these are some of the criteria that I mentioned for internal onboarding analysis. Okay. And then for the Atlas rate system, and this post about implementation adjustments, well, this proposal, it's about improve a model that it's used to determine how much risk is involved in letting out cryptos. So the current model works using spreadsheets, but what they want to do is they want to change it. They want to make it more accurate and automated using Python. So they made some adjustments to the model to improve its accuracy. So these changes, what they say is that these changes won't affect the fees users pay. Um, However, they will make the calculations more precise. So um, they give an example to show how the fees are calculated using the new model. I don't know if anyone has made some sort of uh, go deep into this and have tried out how it really works. But in the post, they mentioned that to make these changes or these adjustments, they need to change some parameters in the model, and they mentioned like KFA or KFB, so for different type of cryptos. Something else that I want to point out before going to the next one is that overall these changes are meant to make this model like more accurate, and prepare it for automation in the future. What they say is that this will help with managing risk and lending out our assets. So I don't know if there's uh, in these changes. Also, we're gonna discuss about the latest changes for the proposal to change its scope as well. It's coming up. Well, this was actually the one from a few weeks ago. However, as you might be aware, it has been some modifications, and I'd like to share, by the way, shout out to Blue. Blue had actually some screenshots of the changes of its scope. So I'm going to share it here. I don't know, Blue, if there is anything in particular from the changes that Rune is proposing that you might like to point out. But um, let me share it just for a minute. So you have the whole page in order for you to see all the edits, or the screenshot as well in here. So you're going to see all the changes in the paragraphs, and not only that, the amounts. Some of them are lower, some of them are higher. There's also modification when it comes to this part of the scope. So we haven't had the time yet to really see how is this getting or helping with the new parameters. But if there is anyone that has the one to point out, yes, process of development. Yeah, we're gonna go to that as well when it comes to the atlas. Yes, thank you, Blue, for sharing your part. Um, but yes, I think that this is for example, this helps way better to really know what are the changes. If you're reading in the forum, you may see, okay, these are the new edits, but I don't remember the previous one. So I'm gonna share as well this, yeah, this link. Okay, let's go back. Just in case it hasn't been the only change modifications, also about governance. We're going to discuss it as well, not in this scope. Okay, the next topic is related to the exposure-based model impact analysis posted in the forum. And this proposal is it's about well, as the name says, it's improving a model to determine how much risk is involved. And so here it mentions some of the modifications. They gave these a lot of numbers that I'm not gonna get into today, but how they have changed in order to decrease this risk. I'm just going to read in here. It says exposure-based model has number of meta parameters that dictate the exposure spread dynamics. If maker governance wants to change the desired exposure of a particular collateral, the metaparameters dictated the spread for the vol types of the collateral can be changed, which in turn will change the SF and ultimately impact the exposure. So we point out these three things that are also mentioned in the forum about ETH, about WST ETH, WBTC, how some of the increased spark exposure was explained because all these tokens migrations from Maker Core to Spark, and then about the Maker annual estimated profit was possibly impacted by the change. So there's these that we can mention from this specific post. Now, the Smartber engine, I think that there is this is one of the topics that sometimes is most complicated to understand. Okay, so the SBE in here, what they mention is that in the update number 5 is that it needs regular checkups to make sure that it's, of course, it keeps working efficiently, and it is aligned with the goals, it is aligned with what is going to be done with the end game. And this recent analysis suggests that some parameters should be modified to achieve these goals. There is a particular parameter animation, and it's the rate of MKR accumulation, since this determines, of course, how much MKR it's bought back and burned by the system. So due to recent changes in surplus buffering flow, so this what this mentioned is that this rate needs to be increased from 60 million to 80 million DAI per year. So you can see it here. And then they mentioned that the hope parameter needs to be modified to account for the increased rate of accumulation. So this particular parameter controls the time between transactions. If you remember back, like I feel like a few quarters ago, we discussed each of these and we give an explanation from each parameter. And if you couldn't actually be there or watch it, you can rewatch it. It's all of our calls are recorded and are in our Notion. You can find it also in YouTube, but the links, everything, it's in the Notion that afterwards I'm also going to share. Okay, so they mentioned about these two parameters, and um, to implement these changes, they propose increasing the rate of MKR accumulation to 80 million, as I said, and decreasing the help parameters to this 19, 70, 10 seconds. And then they provide as well analysis of the SBEs, smart engines, recent transactions, their market impact. They show that that it's functional, that it's functioning efficiently. But what they say is that it needs to be optimized further. So overall, this changes what they want to. It's to make the smarter engine more, of course, more effective when it comes to burning MQR tokens and managing cost, while make sure that this is aligned with endgame. So what is also mentioned is that in the future iterations of the smarter engine design and parameter configuration, new factors should likely be considered. So they mentioned that optimization for decreasing AMPR volatility, since differences in cost optimization between various BAM sizes at current levels are very slim, and higher amount of actions per time can have positive effects on decreasing MKR volatility, which could outweigh the slim difference in optimization. And implementation of meta parameters or introduction of new parameters which would limit smartbar engine activity when MKR price is not favorable, and activate when the price is favorable. So we look forward to these modifications, and well, I think what we all hope is to really works the way that they're. Okay. And the last topic that it's we'd like to discuss is about the proposed change to SparkLend for um, upcoming spell. And um, Funded Labs proposes these changes, and they divide it into the first one that it's activate cap automator. So this is for Ethereum. So Phoenix Labs wants to use this cap automator, as the name says, to automate the limits on SparkLend. And what this code does, it sets maximum limits, it buffer sizes, and cooldown times for different assets. So by activating this code, they aim to reduce the manual work needed to manage borrowing, lending, limits for the asset. So what they say is that using a more flexible approach based on rates rather than fixed limits. I don't know if there's anyone that has a saying into this. That it's this actually makes it better. It really improves. And then mention about the parameter goals, about the limit maximum losses in cases of critical failure, that avoid negative impacts, UX impacts, and manage rate of changes of asset exposure. So that's about the cap automator. And then the collateral parameter adjustments, and this is also for, of course, for Ethereum. When it comes to this, mm, they mentioned that many settings for SparkLend were established when the platform started, or when new assets were added. So what they want now, what Fitness Labs want, it's to update these settings to better match the current market conditions. So these modifications, these adjustments, these changes involves modifications to LTVs, uh, liquidations, thresholds, and interest rate models for all assets. And then in here, what Block Analytica suggests, they will actually suggest specific modifications based on this analysis. So that's why we put that. Block Analytica proposes both the adjustments to be made and the initial parameters for the markets. These changes have already been approved for voting. So once again, what we're doing here, it's to kind of like give I really hope that it was like a better explanation than ones that it's in the forum, that as much as I do believe that they try to give easy explanation, sometimes it's not like that. And the main reason why we're focusing on this, it's because to have more engagement into also into this topic. So whenever there is an update on the risks or some parameters, to be more questions, insights onto these topics. But we do believe that maybe the reason why not everyone it's I mean, encouraged to participate in the forum when it comes to these particular posts might be because it's more complicated to understand that, let's say, other scopes. So please reach out if you would like us to get into any specific issues that you might see into this, or to be more deep, or if you have any questions. So these are all the topics regarding the scope. And now we're going to go to the the gate. So for this, there have been in the forum interesting questions, interesting insights that we really would like to know more of many of you, what you really think about. We're gonna start with the AVC compensation, and I'm gonna share the link. Okay, so this was a very let's say, crucial topic. I think we were discussing it actually a lot in the previous subcommittee meetings, that it was regarding AVC's roles, AVC's compensation. So AVC's had already a task, but we also have to do some other tasks, let's say. And there were a lot of concerns, there were a lot of insights, point of view, questions, comments regarding this modification that now has changed one more time. I'm gonna read this particular one. It says Atlas Axis would effectively control all the AVCs because it controls potentially all of the AVC pay. An ecosystem actor shouldn't have that kind of power over alignment conservers because they're not bound by the same obligations. So, similar like this, there were questions about control, about fairness, about accountability. And actually, there was a response by LB, and they gave an explanation why this reasoning it's not well formulated, because and then they start giving their explanation on why really an ecosystem actor cannot one ecosystem actor can have that much power. So we would like to know about this. Yes, now it has been again modified now, and it's, if you notice, it's gonna be like I mean, LB withdraw all this portion of the proposal that was related to AVC members. So there is no longer any change about AVC member compensation. And now it goes like this. As a temporary bootstrapping measure, incubating ecosystem actor as Axis will be embedded in governance facilitators permission communication channels where spell coordination is formed. Atlas Axis will have no decision-making authority in the spell's work streams. The objective is solely to facilitate Atlas Axis preparation of comprehensive, robust, and resilient Atlas data for governance security by enabling it to directly observe patterns and issues as they arise. This bootstrapping provision ends with the launch of the new change. So we would like to discuss this. Uh, do you think that now that this has been modified, the 12.5, the governance security and ecosystem actor evidence has been modified, it would make it better for alignment conservators to understand their role? What do you think about it? Oh, thank you, Marian. Marian says, I think it is right to eliminate for the moment and rethink this issue, since we were moving from an objective compensation system for the AVC to a subjective system based on the decision for a small group of people. It needs to be rethought to avoid injustice and the uncertainty generated by the fact of not knowing until the end of the quarter if the work done will be rewarded or not. Like to thank LB for this decision, taking into account the feedback and the doubts exposed in the forum. Yes, actually, it works a lot. The fact that there were a lot of concerns and questions regarding this. We also discussed this in the previous calls. So yes. One who wants to comment into this? If not, let's move on to the next part. This is regarding transparency and accountability as again, but about a particular issue. So in the forum, there were some questions to delegates. Okay, you vote yes, you vote no. We would like to know why. Um, and this made an interesting debate on how can we elaborate like kind of these questions without being, let's say, let me just read the question. So there was these two questions in the forum. How do we strike a balance between making sure things are being handled properly and not getting too caught up in the details? When should we step in and when should we trust that people are doing their job the way they are supposed to? So can we even question certain behavior, or if we I mean aligning conservators, ecosystem actors, let's say AVC members, let's say delegates. So is it misaligned, to ask details, information, ask more details about a specific action, that would lead us to become misaligned. That's one of the main questions that come to our minds with this particular case. And I remember there is this particular example. So in the atlas, I think there is not a very specific clarity into this. I think I have it here. Yes, but I'm gonna go into this. So to finish like this point, um, I think there is no clarity when it comes to, okay, I really would like to know more, and I really would like to have more details in this particular part, this particular let's say if an ecosystem actor it's not giving enough details, could I actually ask uh or we just should ignore because that's not our main role, and there are people that I should be looking into this. So if that's not my role, the atlas does not say that, okay, I just ignore and pretend, even if there is something that might be considered important, I don't take it into account because that's not my role. So would like to know, what do you think about this, and if you can share us, especially the 80s, but in general, all ecosystem, all ACs. Oh, I see. True name is typing. Gotta go back into. I feel like sometimes people feel pressure because they're like typing, and since I made some silence, or maybe I should post my answer now. But please do not feel like, finish your thought and post it on the chat. Just gonna continue. But it help us a lot if you share your insights. So I'm gonna go do it once you finished. Now, this we're gonna change a little bit the topic, but just there it is. Okay, true name says ignore and pretend suggests the only option is to propose amendments or not. AVCs have other ways to communicate and raise issues. Does anybody else? Thank you for sharing your insights, your name. Does anybody else have a saying into this? Okay, Blue agrees. Okay. I really don't want to point out all the delegates. So if just those are the comments. Okay, if there is anyone that actually have a different opinion, it I mean it works if you can just post your insights. Okay, comes to this part. Um, again, this is a topic we also discussed last week, and it's regarding the GSL, and we have posted here the section. So in the atlas, it says regarding this in 2.6.2.2 that an ADPDM also has neutral GSL, which is a special GSL, that it is not linked to any AVC, but that the AD must instead use to vote for a balanced strategy that achieves the mean of the positions of all AVCs, and it is universally aligned. Okay. We kind of some questions last week. We solved it thanks to the comments from the 80s, the facilitators, the comments also that were brought so from other questions in the forum in Discord. And there is this particular question that was just from a few days ago regarding this. And it's, does this mean that in a situation where the AD disagrees with the AVC and votes differently, and as a result gets their GSL to that AVC linked, they now have a single neutral GSL that they can vote however they want with? Um, and we elaborate this as well. I think this is one of the questions that the interpretation, I think that has been similar to different community members. So it's right. That's why I kind of like bringing it up. But Wizard about this says this: according to the Atlas, they can vote however they want. They have to follow a balanced strategy that achieves the mean of the positions of all ABCs and is universally aligned. And of course, in here, I don't know if for everyone it is clear that when it is saying about the balance strategy, I do believe that it might be better ways to communicate this and be more clear. Um, but yes, I think the what yeah, what Wizard, it's their answer, it's way more clear. So no, they cannot vote however they want. And what they need to follow, it's the strategy that it's also in the Atlas, and it's about if they are hawkish or not, or dovish. And yes, and they post a link of that specific. Two, I think that has been answered, and okay, it is more clear now that there has even this particular response. Well, I don't know if there's anything else that anyone would like to add when it comes to this. Um, or not just this section, more sections. We also discuss more sections about the Atlas, because remember that one thing that they always mention about when you are interpreting a section is that you not really have to only check on a specific section, but all the context, and that means that also reads um, basically more sections. So that's actually how we also try to interpret the Atlas. And oh yes, I was forgetting about Blue's. Just let me. I'm going to share it as well. Again, thank you, Blue. Um, I'm trying to. Okay, here. I'm going to share also Blue's work. Read them aloud. Okay, so these are Blue's document, and they mention this is where our focus is at the moment. LB has introduced all drafter to the workflow, and the first deadline is Wednesday, March 28. The flow is as follows. Drafter receives an email describing the atomic section to focus on. Drafter submits a drafting plan to LB describing which annotation and atomic sections have been identified, and a few considerations might be included too. LB signs off on the drafting plan. Drafter creates the annotation, tenets, and scenarios. Review by LB. Step number 6 is yet unknown. We have LB here, so if you would like to give us an alpha, please, you're very welcome. And Blue says, they say, our view on this flow so far is that we find it well thought out, and the use of the drafting plan ensures quality and coverage, hopefully removing the need for the work to be written or changed after the final review. At the same time, we are developing scripts to help with this automation. we are abandoning the previous work, meaning the finance scripts. This change makes it much easier for anyone to run the script, as Python installation is no longer required on your hardware. Now it's PHP. You simply refresh your browser and you can download the JSON. So they mentioned here, you have to do. Last week we say we're integrating with code. After some experimentation, we decided to propose not using that, as Kata tables do not provide the necessary and optimal data structure for producing nested data outputs in the manner required for the best practice structure. To solve this in a more scalable way, instead of using Kata for committing drafts changes to the atlas, which would entail both data redundancy in some sense, as well as data structure not meant for Nettis data, we suggest building a simple web application for entering these changes to the atlas with a database behind. In this database, all data structures are kept, which means the data is atomized further and stored in separate tables rather than in just master table, one for all solution. So we're sharing this so everyone it's aware, and if they want to also be working into this. Oh, I see here. Let's say. Oh, yes. That's why Mariam put it on the chat. Will give us the opinion under public document. Be grateful your opinion. And I see your name. The workflow has been extremely well organized. We just completed the initial assignment and continue to learn important insights into the logic of the atlas through the work. Thank you, your name. Clucky says, the process is in its initial phases. Drafters have delivered our first drafting submissions yesterday and are anticipating LB's evaluation. I would assert that the work has progressed smoothly so far. Oh, good to know. Thank you, Clocky. We'd like to know also the reviews. So we're going to be also expectant of the results. It's good to know your insights into this, and that for most of you this has been going smoothly. Okay, is there any other common insight question that you would like to share about any of the topics that we have been discussing, or you would like us to discuss in the next in our last call next week, that it's regarding the atlas or the accessibility scope? Please reach out to us and let us know. It actually helps a lot. Probably if you would like us to focus on a topic in the scope in particular, it's going to help us a lot. So if there is no other comment, that will be all for today. And please do not miss our last call of the quarter. That's going to be next week about stability scope and the gate. That will be all, everyone. Thank you so much for attending.